Okay, I'm just gonna get started. Share my screen. Okay, we are looking at my screen. That always happens to me. I have to like make sure we are looking at my screen. Okay. All right, so my presentation is going to be on self-image, esteem, and art in adolescent girls. Okay. Just a heads up, there's going to be a lot of definitions in my presentation. Went a little overboard with that, but you'll see how it comes all together. So for this slide, the definition of art based on research. So the dictionary definition of art I'm sorry, well, I'm sorry. So the definition, the dictionary definition of art is stated as such. Art is a noun, apparently. The expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as a painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. So based on some of the research that I did, along with the visual aid of one of my visual journals, it said that definition based on research tells us that art can be a mode of inquiry or measurement. There are many disciplines that includes dance, drama, music, and visual. Art is considered a physical activity. I know a lot of people don't think that writing is physical, but when you get those hand cramps, then yeah, it feels pretty physical. And then also art is a form of communication when language cannot do what it's supposed to do. Art kind of steps in and fills that role. Okay. So art can also be used as a form of escapism. It can be used for both healing and comfort. So the dictionary definition of escapism is stated as now the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. This visual journal was based on an article that I read about childhood trauma. I thought that fit well into the theme of escapism. And it says why art might be used as a form of escapism. This can be used for struggling to communicate feelings. This could be exposure to sexual, physical, or emotional abuse. Trying to maintain a sense of agency, like you want to feel like you have control over something in your life. To keep from self-harm, unfortunately. Rejection and shyness. Oops, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Just a little technical difficulty right there. Let me see.
I think you're good. Sometimes I get caught up if you want to just hit like instead of the play button, just the arrow.
Just a second. I'm trying to figure out where I put my slideshow.
Take your time.
I'm just gonna stop the share for a minute. So I can
That's okay. Yeah, do what you gotta do.
I apologize.
No problem at all. How many times all time I get like that lost in the Zoom screens, right? Of like, where is where and where are we clicking and what are we doing? So it wouldn't be a Zoom if we didn't get lost into the Zoom screen, even just for a moment. So yeah, the only thing that I find when I use Google Slides is to not hit the play button and just hit the front arrow.
Let me see if I can just pull it up in a different window.
Okay, no problem.
Let's see.
Yeah, because like we were seeing it okay, but if you were having trouble advancing,
Yeah, it's always a finger slip.
it's fine.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm all good now.
All right, hey.
Okay. So this is actually my next slide. So I was able to share some very nice pictures of myself through many awkward phases. This is me between the ages, I want to say about 8 to about 14 years old. So this is a young girl. I said, take the time to listen to an adolescent girl. So I was always a quiet and more reserved child. And growing up, I would always hear the phrases, speak up. Why are you so quiet? Why are you so shy? All these phrases were true, but I always found myself being a person of actions rather than words. When I discovered my love for art, I not only used it as a form of escapism, but also as a way of communication. Okay, so validation, all things bright and beautiful. The dictionary definition of validation is stated as a noun, recognition or affirmation that a person or their feelings or opinions are valid or worthwhile. The girl in this painting reminds me so much of myself at this age, in terms of just the way she like built, because I was kind of a chubby kid. Um, Also, my favorite color was, and to this day, is still purple. As I began to go through puberty, I also found myself looking through validation through my artwork, um, especially from boys, because I was getting to that age where boys weren't so icky anymore. I also used to think, unfortunately, I had this thought process for a long time. Well, I'm not beautiful, but at least I can make beautiful things that people will like. So that was my thought process in terms of validation. Okay. So perfection, art's oxymoron. The dictionary definition of perfection is stated as noun, the condition, state, or quality of being free as possible from all flaws and deflects. Um, as I found myself seeking validation in both middle school and high school through my artwork, I also found myself becoming obsessed with becoming a perfectionist. Um, and it's a slippery slope, because while it is important in some cases to have good craftsmanship in your work, art isn't about being perfect. It's more about the process. Um, the issue with being a perfectionist was was more so due to a problem of having low self-esteem. So therapy and self-esteem. So this was a visual journal that I did on an article on art therapy. The dictionary definition of self-esteem is stated as a noun, confidence in one's worth or abilities. And through some of my research, it says for adolescent girls in art therapy specifically, it's important to foster positive body image and self-esteem. It says girls who have attended these sessions have had their self-esteem and body image improved. They usually work on projects with materials that they're familiar with at first, so that way they build confidence. They're often encouraged to ask themselves questions such as, who do I present to the world, or what story do I have to tell? Affirmations like this are very important, and they because it reaffirms to them that they are important and that they do matter, regardless of whether or not they think regardless of whether or not they think they do. So it's kind of a I guess it's kind of a pretzel twist. Like you really want to get in there and give them reassurance that they actually do matter when they're in this state where they think that they don't. This is why I thought that the composition with all the fish kind of like swimming around different directions, um, it's just a way to show confusion, but also a way to find to figure out yourself. Okay. So body image. Okay, so it's a little bit of history. So in the 19th century, sculptors became interested in adolescent girls as subjects of their artwork. The problem with sculptures like these, however, is that unfortunately it sexualizes girls who are going through puberty but are still considered children. It's a slippery slope because at this age, girls are constantly questioning whether or not they're beautiful, um, which also brings up the possibility that these girls, while not intentionally, they might be sexualizing themselves because they assume that this is the image that makes them beautiful, which to be fair, most of these sculptors at the time were men. So of course it's coming from a male gaze, which also circles back to how kind of creepy it is because they're still considered children. So, but at the time, there's also at the time there was no blurred line between children being children and adults. So there was no such thing as being a teenager back then. So they didn't really know what teenagehood was. Like there was like what it's just children and then adult. So that's how that was. Um, and some more history. So historically, a woman's body was her best survival tool in a world predominantly dominated by men. Just as the 19th century sculptors sexualized the female body, in the same vein, once girls became older, they are adultified. Body image was so important because it determined a woman's social status as well as marital status. If young girls didn't fit these norms, it can certainly create an inferiority complex, which can result in low self-esteem. So even to this day, there are many women and girls that will resort to eating disorders in order to obtain an ideal body figure. Um, which is ironic because one of the drawings that I have on the right, um, one of the drawings I have on the right, most people wouldn't consider that the ideal um, body figure, but realistically, this is what a lot of women look like. You know, there's no when people think of the female body, there's like no in between. Sometimes they think super skinny or they think super obese. There's like no in between, but most women look like this right here. Okay, so moving forward. Um, Fortunately, I don't have all the answers. However, as a future art educator, I'm going to be having many adolescent girls as my students. Based on my own research and my own adolescence, it's my responsibility to foster these girls in a positive environment. Um, but ultimately, I want my female students to not feel the need to make perfect artwork because, like we said before, that's an oxymoron. For the validation of others because they're good enough with or without their artwork. And that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brittany. And I love this notion of kind of like moving forward and how to keep that in mind because it really is so easy to lose sight of these kinds of things as especially as a teacher. I'm going to say, does anyone have just like a quick comment or question before we move on to, we've got 2 more presentations left. And that's okay. If we want to, we'll hold off until we can have some more discussions at the end.
I have
But
a quick, well, kind of quick, I'm sorry, kind of
oh,
quick.
go ahead, Simone, go ahead.
So I really relate to this presentation. I was very chubby in middle school, but at the same time, like I enjoyed the fact that I was like the art person, like the art child. So that always made me feel good. Like I was like the star of the show in the art room. When I left the art room, it was a different story, but like in the art room, I was. But it didn't like it hit me until like 11th grade when that I wanted to do art, and then because of like my experience with art in the past, and that art just kind of became like this way of like constantly reminding myself who I am and like loving myself and showing that. So that's like what my art became because of all of that that I went through. So yeah, thank you for that.
I love that in that it's like that, someone like that realization can become an affirmation. You know, and I think that, and Brittany, I have to say, it's just been really incredible to watch you on this journey, making all of these connections throughout this. And it's still a work in progress, right? And we keep moving with that. But thank you for sharing, and thank you everyone for sharing these parts of yourselves with us tonight.
And I also, just a quick note, I also want to thank everybody for just being patient with me during the presentation. I know I might have seemed very calm on camera, but in my head, there was wheels just all over the place. So thank you guys very much.
No, thank you for that moment of authenticity. That is so important, especially in this digital virtual world. So yes, of course, thank you. So next up we have Sam.